Today we are going to start our next playlist, which is on microeconomics. This topic as per IBBI syllabus carries total 3 marks as per revised IBBI syllabus. Little bit lengthy syllabus, but very interesting and very easy to understand and very scoring. There are few important concepts. If you understand, you can score full 3 marks into this topic. So in today's session, we are going to cover consumption, indifference curve, its definition, properties and derivation. We will also discuss about budget line. We also see budget equation, its derivation, then consumer equilibrium and calculation of consumer surplus and its measurement with the help of diagram, table. Then towards middle of the session we will discuss about law of demand. What are the different types of demand curves, their determinants, what are the assumptions, and what are the exceptions to the law of demand. And towards the end of the session we will discuss about law of supply. So this law of demand and law of supply both are very important, and consumer equilibrium is also very important. So within law of supply we will discuss about type of supply curves, determinants, assumptions, and again exceptions to law of supply. So this is the full syllabus of microeconomics, which carries 3 marks as per revised IBBI syllabus. So in today's session we will cover point number 1 and major portion of point number 2. Then in second session we will try to cover remaining portion of point number 2. Then point number 3, 4. So up to this point we will try to cover in session number 2. And in third session of current playlist we will discuss about theory of rent, theory of profits, and then capital and interest. So first important terminology is consumption. It is the process of using economic goods and personal services to satisfy human wants. Consumption can either be instantaneous, like in case of perishable goods, or gradual, like in case of durable goods like house, furniture, etc. Further, human wants can be of following 3 types. Number 1, necessities, comforts, number 2, and number 3, luxuries. So broadly speaking, human wants can be reclassified or bifurcated into these 3 broad categories: necessities, comforts, and luxuries. So within necessities could be like for life, like food; for efficiency, like nutritious food cycle, etc. And necessities could be for conventional necessities like coffee, cigarette, etc. And coffee, comfort, and luxury is just self-explanatory. The next important terminology is indifference curve. It is nothing but a curve which represents all those combinations of 2 goods which give same satisfaction to a consumer. For example, a person is having 100 rupees, and if he want to buy mangoes and apples, and say price of each mango is rupees 20 per piece and apple cost is rupees 10 rupees per piece. So this person can buy various combinations of mangoes and apples with these 100 rupees. So what are the possible combination of mangoes and apples which this person can buy with by spending this 100 rupees fully? Could be 1 mango, that means 20 rupees, and with the remaining 80 rupees he can purchase 8 apples. So first possible combination is 1 mango plus 8 apples. Second possible combination could be 2 mangoes. To purchase 2 mangoes he will be required to spend 40 rupees out of 100, and with remaining 60 rupees he can buy another 6 apples. So second possible combination is 2 mangoes and 6 apples. Likewise, if he purchases 3 mangoes, 20 rupees per mango means 60 rupees he will spend on purchase of mango, and with the remaining 40 rupees he can purchase 4 apples at the cost of 10 rupees per apple. And fourth possible combination is 4 mangoes plus 2 apples, put together 100 rupees. So these are the 4 possible combination. Here the underlying assumption is that he will buy at least 1 item of mango and 1 item of apple. So this is the one of the important characteristics of indifference curve that we will discuss subsequently again. But here please remember, always remember, in case of difference indifference curve, if we are dealing with two items, so at least one item of each the consumer will purchase, minimum one. It cannot be zero. There is no possibility of 0 mango 10 apple, or 5 mangoes 0 apple. That possible combination is not possible in difference curve. So if we'll draw all these four possible combination on this x and y axis, wherein x axis is quantity of apple and y axis is quantity of mango, so the curve that we will get is called indifference curve. Now these are the five important properties of indifference curve which examiner may ask in IBBI exam as also. First property is indifference curve is negatively sloped, that is sloped towards the right, this way. A higher indifference curve represents a higher level of satisfaction than that of the lower indifference curve. Third important characteristic or property of indifference curve is two indifference curves can never intersect each other. Fourth characteristic is indifference curves are always convex or curved to the origin. And fifth characteristic is indifference curve will not touch either axis. So let us discuss each of these five properties in detail little bit. So first property, indifference curve is negatively sloped, that is sloped toward the right. So this negative slope indicates that if quantity of mango increase, there must be decrease in quantity of apple to achieve same level of satisfaction, as we saw in previous diagram. So second characteristic is higher indifference curve represents higher level of satisfaction than lower indifference curve. So to understand this concept, let us draw three indifference curve. This is indifference curve number 1, this is 2, and this is 3, right? So let us call this middle indifference curve as IC1, middle one, right? So this highest, let us first compare this high indifference curve with the middle indifference curve. So if we see, for a given level of apple, say 6 apple, if we draw this line, vertical line, so consumer who is sitting on this indifference IC1, indifference curve 1, will get 4 mangoes. However, a person or consumer sitting on this higher indifference curve will get 6 mangoes. So but obvious, the level of satisfaction a person will get with a combination of 6 mangoes and 6 apple will be much higher than the level of satisfaction the other consumer will get with a combination of 4 mangoes and 6 apples. So the person who are sitting on this difference curve will have higher level of satisfaction than consumers who are sitting on this indifference curve. Likewise, any person who is sitting on lower indifference curve will get 2 mangoes only, and combination of 2 mangoes and 6 apple will give lower level of satisfaction as compared to combination of 4 mangoes and 6 apple to a consumer. So this lower consumer indifference curve will give lower level of customer satisfaction to the customer. Third important characteristic, two indifference curves can never intersect each other. So to understand this property, we need to understand three important characteristics or attributes of indifference relation. So first is transitivity. Third important attribute is reflexiveness, and third one is symmetry. So what is transitivity? Say we take three combination of mangoes, apple and mango. First combination is 1 mango 8 apple, 2 mango 6 apple, and third combination is 3 mangoes 4 apple. Thus if x and y are indifferent to each other, so this combination and this combination are indifferent, are on same indifference curve, and y and z are also indifferent. So y and z, this combination and this combination are again indifferent. That means x will be indifferent to z. So if X is indifferent to Y and Y is indifferent to Z, that implies X will be indifferent to Z. This is first characteristic, which is called transitivity. Second is reflexiveness. X remain X always remain indifferent to itself. And third is symmetry. So if X is indifferent to Y, combination X is indifferent to Y, that implies Y combination Y remain indifferent to X. So now to further understand this characteristic, let us assume that two indifference curves transact each other. Let us assume, contradiction. The characteristic is that two indifference curves can never intersect each other, but let us assume two indifference curves intersect each other, and then we will prove that this is not possible. Hence this property characteristic will be proved. So here in this case, say we have two indifference curves, IC1, IC2. This is IC1, this is IC1, and this is IC2, and these two curves are intersecting at A, point A. This point A is on both intersect curves, indifference curves 1 and 2. So since A and B are on same indifference curve, this IC1, that means B and A both are indifferent. Again, since A and C are on same indifference curve, IC1, then again A and C are indifferent to each other. Now we know the attribute of transitivity. Since B is indifferent to A and A is indifferent to C, that means B should be indifferent to C. So that means B and C should be on same indifference curve. They cannot be on different, right? So now it is a contradiction. So here if we see on these diagram, so here by looking at this diagram, C is preferred over B, CPB. However, if we see these attribute of transitivity, so B is indifferent to C. So that is not possible. So that is why two indifference curves can never transact each other. Now fourth important property of indifference curve is that indifference curve are always convex to the origin. This represents that the declining slope of indifference curve, obviously in absolute terms, as they move along the curve from left to right. Fifth and last property of indifference curve is that indifference curve will never touch either axis. This means that the customer never give with zero quantity. Very important property. Zero quantity of one item, that is combination like 0 mango and 10 apple and 5 mango 0 apple, are not possible in case of indifference curves. Let us also try to understand derivation of indifference curve with the help of an example. So let us take a bundle of commodity, say X, which is 1 mango and 5 apples. Now let us say this point, this single point represents, this single point, particular point represents combination of 1 mango and 5 apples. So if we draw north south axis on this point and west south west east axis on this particular point, so all combinations falling in this northeast area, northeast zone, shall be preferred over X combination, and all combinations falling in this southwest zone will be inferior to the combination X in terms of satisfaction level. And these northwest zone and southeast zone, customer falling in this zone and this zone, you cannot say anything about as compared to X. So likewise, take another bundle of mangoes and apples, say Y, which is 2 mangoes and 3 apples. Then let us see this one, this combination. So here also in this case, the bundles which fall in northeast zone of Y shall be preferred, and bundles which fall in southwest zone of Y will be inferior likewise. So if we take another hypothetical combination of say Z 1.25 apple and 4.5 1.25 mangoes and 4.5 apples, so again all northeast zone combination will be preferred and southwest combination will be inferior. So if we draw all these points on a curve, all these three bundles on a curve, and all these three bundles are giving same level of satisfaction to a customer, that is all these three bundles are indifferent to each other, then line connecting these three bundles will be called indifference curve. Further, all bundles lying on left side of the line are inferior, so any bundle which is falling, any combination of these two goods which is falling in this zone below this line will be inferior to this line indifference curve, but will be inferior to bundles which are falling on this indifference curve. Likewise, all combination of mangoes and apples which fall in this zone above this line will be superior to the combinations which are falling on this indifference curve. Next important topic is budget line. Budget line shows all those combination of two goods, mangoes and apples, which a consumer can buy spending his money on two goods having specified prices. For example, a person is having 100 rupees and he can buy mangoes and apples in following combination, assuming 20 rupees per piece of a mango and 10 rupees per piece of apple. So it is similar to indifference curve, but the difference is that here the person can buy zero apple or zero mangoes, which was not possible in difference curve. So possible combination in case of budget line would be mangoes 5 mango 0 apple, 4 mango 2 apple, 3 mango 4 apple, 2 mangoes 6 apple, 1 mango 8 apples, and 0 mango 10 apples. So this last combination, first combination, was not possible. So if we draw all these combinations on a x-axis say apple and y-axis say mango, and the line connecting all these 7 combination points is called budget line. This is the budget equation, which is nothing but I is nothing but income of customer, and it remain constant, is equal to price of mango, which remain constant, then quantity of mango consumed, which remain variable, plus price of apple, which remain constant, and quantity of apple, which remain variable. So this is the equation for budget. This is called budget equation. So if we assume quantity of mango is equal to 0, say here, that means if mango consumed is 0, so that means the customer will consume uh, quantity of apple equal to total income divided by price of apple. So this is the QA. QA is equal to I divided by PA. Likewise, if customer decide to consume 0 apples, then he will spend entire income on mangoes only. So income divided by price of mango will give us the quantity of mango. So this QM, right? So slope of budget line is nothing but OM minus OM divided by, it is negatively sloped in minus sign has been put. So minus OM divided by OA. So OM is nothing but QM, quantity of mango consumed assuming 0 quantity of apple, and this OA is nothing but quantity of apple consumed assuming 0 quantity of mango. So minus I divided by PM from here divided by I divided by PA from this. So this is the formula for slope for budget line. Sometime 1 mark numerical may come out of this budget equation also. Minus PA divided by PM. And this shaded area shows the feasible bundles of goods which a consumer can buy with the given budget. So if customer is having 100 rupees, so he can buy any possible combination into the shaded area. Please remember, and this point is equal to I divided by PM, this point is equal to I divided by PA, and this line is called budget line. Now effects of change in income on budget line. So if we increase or decrease income, how budget line will move? If PM and PA remain constant, price of mango and price of apple remain constant, and income of consumer increases, the budget line will move parallelly outward and vice versa. So if income increases, obviously price of apple and mango remain constant, so that means this budget line will move outward. So Please remember this characteristic. Sometimes 1 mark theory question comes out of it only. So it will move from this line to this line outside. So it will move from MA to M dash to A dash, and both lines will remain parallel to each other. So budget line will shift right or outward. Likewise, if income decreases and price of mango and apple remain constant, then budget line will move inward or downward, and it will remain parallel. So here M dash A dash will remain parallel, it will move downward inside towards the axis. So it will be the new budget line if income decreases. The effect of change in price of commodity on budget line. If price of one good changes and price of other good and income remain constant. Say price of mango change, say price of apple changes, and income of customer and price of mango remain constant, for example. Then how budget line will move with change in price of apple? So if price of apple decreases, for example, so if it decreases, then this is the original line, budget line. So if price of apple decreases, then budget line will move from this direction to this one. So its slope will decrease. Now it will move from this point to this point, because with given budget the customer can buy more apples, but since price of mango is constant, so with given given price of customer will be able to buy same level of mangoes. Likewise here, if price of apple increases, then slope of the budget line will increase, because with given budget customer will be able to buy less number of apples, but the number of mangoes which he can purchase given the constant level of income will remain constant, assuming constant price of mango. The next important topic is consumer equilibrium. Consumer equilibrium is nothing but assuming the customer spends whole of his income, the customer always try to select the bundle which gives maximum utility. Thus the point where the budget line just kisses the indifference curve is called equilibrium position of tangency. So we have already understood budget line, we have already understood indifference curve. So the point where given a level of specific income, if we draw budget line as well as indifference curve for the customer, so the point where indifference curve and budget line just kisses each other, that is called equilibrium position of tangency. At equilibrium point, slope of budget line and IC curve becomes equal. This is a very important characteristic. So at equilibrium point, slope of budget line is equal to nothing but minus PA divided by PM, and slope of indifference curve is equal to MUA divided by MUM. Other assumptions for consumer equilibrium are: consumer has fixed income which he has to spend wholly on two goods. So he has fixed income and he will spend 100% of his income. There is assumption, important assumptions are there. Prices of the two goods are given and fixed, remain constant. Two goods are homogeneous and divisible. So these two goods can be divided into for example 1.5 mangoes to 1.75 mangoes, 1.6 mangoes. That is possible. Customer acts rationally and maximizes his satisfaction. These are the four important assumptions of consumer equilibrium. Consumer surplus: we buy goods because they give us utility, but at the same time we lose some utility in terms of money. So we are giving money and getting some goods. So since we are giving money out of our pocket, so we are losing utility in terms of money. Since we are getting some goods, so we are getting some utility. So being rational consumer, he goes on buying units of commodity as long as utility gained by purchasing a commodity is higher than that of the utility lost in terms of money paid. So utility of commodity goes on falling as we consume more and more units, but utility of units of money remain constant. So if I am having say 1000 rupees and I want to buy a bottle of Coke, say each bottle of Coke I want to drink some cold drink. So if each bottle of Coke is costing 100 rupees, so the first bottle which I purchase by paying 100 rupees will give me more utility then my 100 rupees paid. But if I buy a second bottle of Coke, it will give little bit less utility. So if I want to buy 10 bottles with the Coke, with the price of the Coke, so it will give me less utility again. So consumer surplus is nothing but price which the customer is willing to pay, or the utility the customer is getting out of the commodity, minus price of which customer actually pays. So if I am, by purchasing that a bottle of Coke, I am getting a say cold drink, I am getting a utility of say 130 rupees, and I am paying 100 rupees for purchasing that bottle of cool drink. So it will give me a consumer surplus of 30 rupees. So till the time I have positive customer surplus, I would like to buy more and more units of commodity. So a customer who is ready to pay say rupees 10 for a cup of tea, if gets same cup of tea at 7 rupees per cup, he has a consumer surplus of rupees 3 per cup. Let us try to understand how to measure customer surplus with the help of an example. It can be delivered from the demand curve or marginal utility curve. For example, I have 500 rupees and want to buy apples at the rate of 100 rupees per piece. When I buy first apple by paying 100 rupees, I may get marginal utility of say rupees 150. When I buy second apple by paying 100 rupees, I may get marginal utility of little bit less, maybe say 130 rupees. Third and fourth apple may give me marginal utility of 120 rupees and 112 rupees respectively, and fifth apple may give me marginal utility of 100 rupees against cost of constant cost of apple, which is 100 rupees. So thus I'll stop buying apples. Now my utility and my cost of apple will remain constant, since after fifth apple marginal utility gets lower than the price of each subsequent apple. So consumer surplus is nothing but sum total of marginal utility which these 5 apple will give to me, minus price paid for purchasing these 5 apples. So here in this case, marginal utility which I am getting out of these 5 apples is 150 rupees from first, 130 from second, 120 from third, 112 from fourth, and 100 rupees from 100 rupees of utility from fifth apple. And total 5 to purchase 5 apple, I need to spend 500 rupees. 5 into 100 rupees, so that means 612 minus 500 is equal to 112 rupees is my consumer surplus. So with the help of graph, we can also calculate this consumer surplus. So if we draw quantity demanded on x-axis, quantity of apple, and price of each apple and marginal utility on y-axis. So this is the price of apple 100 rupees as marginal utility 100 to 150 rupees. So this area of this triangle gives us the consumer surplus, and this 100 rupees is nothing but price of apple. Next important concept is law of demand. Law of demand of an item decreases. It states that demand of an item decreases with rise in price of it, and vice versa. If price of an item increase, then demand will decrease, and if price will decrease, then demand will increase. That is, demand and price of a good are inversely proportional to each other. A demand schedule can be of following two types: individual demand schedule, and second is market demand schedule. Let us see each other. Individual demand schedule, it represents the quantity of a good which one consumer like to buy at different price points. So graphical representation of all such point is called individual demand schedule. So this is the table or individual demand schedule of apple. So if price of apple is say 10 rupees, then there might be customer may like to buy 4 apples. If price increase to say 20 rupees per apple, he may like to buy 3 apples only. His quantity demanded by one individual will get reduced, demand will reduce. Say price will increase to 30 rupees, demand may further reduce to 2 apples, and say price increase to 40 rupees, demand may further go down to 1 apple. So this tabular presentation of this price and demand combination is called individual demand schedule of apple. And if we draw this table in graphical picture, that gives us individual demand curve of apple. So on y-axis it is price of apple, and on x-axis is demand of apple. So this is first combination. At 10 rupees 4 apples, 20 rupees 3 apples, 30 rupees 2 apples, and 40 rupees 1 apple. And line drawing joining these 4 points, 4 combinations, is called as individual demand curve. Next is market demand schedule. If we add quantity demanded by all consumers, so individual demand curve was specific to the one customer. So this is for entire market, all consumers in the market at different price points. The cumulative demand at different price point is called market demand schedule. So let us assume there are two customers. There are only two customers in the market, say Ravi and Sahil. So at 10 rupees, Ravi would demand 4 apples and Sahil will demand 5 apples. However, at 20 rupees, Ravi demand will reduce to 3 apples and 4 apples. Right. So put together total demand will be 7 rupees. In case of 10 rupees of price, total demand in the market will be 9 apples. At 20 rupees, total demand will be 7 rupees, so 7 apples. At 30 rupees of rate of apple per apple, Ravi would demand 2 apples and Sahil would demand 3 apples. So total demand in the market will be 5 apples. And at 40 rupees, Ravi demand would further go down to 1 apple and Sahil would like to buy only 2 apples. Total demand in the market would be 3 apples. So this is the market supply schedule of apples for entire market. If we draw this table into this graphical picture, so that will give us the market demand curve of apple. So again, y-axis it is price of the apple and y-axis is demand of the apple. So at 40 rupees, total 3 units will be demanded by the entire market. At 30 rupees, total 5 apples will be demanded by the entire market. At 20 rupees, 7 apples will be demanded by the entire market. And 10 rupees, 9 apples will be the total demand of the market for apples. These are the determinants of demand and demand function. So there are various factors which affect demand of a commodity. Some of these major factors are as under. So first category of factors are factors affecting individual demand of goods, and second set of factors are which are factor affecting demand of the aggregate demand of the market. So in case of individual demand, the factors which affect is price of commodity, income of consumer, taste and preferences of consumer, and consumer expectation. However, in case of factors which affect total aggregate market demand is population, income distribution, weather condition. Please make a note of this slide. Sometimes 1 mark theory question comes out of this slide only. So first is price of commodity, how it is affect. As price increase, demand decrease for the goods whose price has been increased. If price rise of one good lead to reduced demand of other goods like car and petrol, these two goods are complementary goods. Income of consumer, increase in income may have different impact on different category of goods. So if customer income will increase, it will have different impact. So in case of normal goods like TV, car, clothes, etc., demand increase with rise in income. Please note down. In case of inferior goods like jowar, bajra, maize, etc., demand decrease with rise in income. This is because rich people shift from inferior good to superior good. People would like to buy wheat or rice as their income increase. They do not like to buy jowar, bajra, maize. So and necessities, in case of necessities like salt, sugar, matchbox, etc., demand of these goods remain constant even if increase in income. So this is the impact of increase in income on individual demand of goods. Normal, inferior, necessities, very important slide. 1 mark theory question may come out of it. Taste and preferences of consumer depend on social customs, habits, fashion, etc., and affect demand accordingly. So there is no fixed pattern as such. It depends on multiple factors. And fourth factor is consumers expectation. If price of a good is expected to rise, its demand gets increased as people tend to stock more goods, and vice versa. If income is likely to decrease in near future, demand may for many goods would decrease as people tend to save more for their future needs. Now, second set of factors is the factor affecting aggregate demand. First factor is population. Demand increases with increase in country's population. So, if demand population will increase, then overall demand of entire market of goods, overall demand of goods by entire market would increase, obviously. Second factor affecting overall demand of the market. If there is inequality of income distribution, in such cases demand for luxury item will increase. However, if there is equality in income distribution, then demand for all items will increase. This is also again important slide from exam perspective. Weather condition: in summers, demand for sunglasses, cotton wear may increase. In rainy season, demand for raincoat, umbrella, etc. get increased. So these are the assumptions of law of demand. So law of demand is based on following assumption. There is no change in income of people, number one. Taste, preference and habits of consumer remain unchanged. Prices of related goods, that is substitute and complementary good, remain unchanged. There is no expectation of future change in price of the commodity. And last is, commodity in question is not consumed for its prestige value. Thus, keeping all factors constant, demand is inversely proportional to the price. So demand is nothing but function of price, and it is inversely proportional to the price as per law of demand. So however, there are certain exceptions to the law of demand also. So there are some goods whose demand increase as price of these goods increase. So normally what law of demand says: price increase, demand decrease; price decrease, demand increase. But there are certain goods in which cases price, yes, as the price increase, the demand increases, and demand decrease as the price decrease. That is opposite to law of demand. So these goods are following types, like conspicuous goods. These are goods which are consumed by rich people. For example, expensive cars, diamond jewelry. There is more demand at higher price. Then second category of goods, such goods is conspicuous necessities, like TV, fridge, power, gas, etc. Don't see fall in demand even if their prices increase. And third is giffen goods, very important. These are the inferior goods with no close substitute within the same budget. For example, coarse grain like bajra, low grain rice, wheat. So even if their price will increase, demand will not decrease. Giffen goods are named also after name of Sir Robert Giffen. Please note down this statement also. And a very important statement from exam perspective. Please note that all Giffen goods are inferior goods, but all inferior goods are not giffen goods. Inferior goods ought to have a close substitute. But in case of giffen goods, there is no close substitute. Reasons for exception to law of demand. Future expectation of price. In share market, people tend to buy more shares with rising prices to gain more profit. In case of a drought, people expect that food grain prices may go up and tend to buy more. Bandwagon effect: if consumer demands a commodity because of taste and preference of the social class to which he belongs to, this is called bandwagon effect. For example, if sports car is fashionable among business community, people tend to buy costly sports car to project his position in the society. And third reason is Veblen effect. Many times customer judge quality of a product by its price. Higher the price, better is the quality. For instance, demand of branded consumer goods increase with price rise. For example, Surf Excel versus Rin. Next and last topic for today's session is law of supply. It states that other things remaining same, supply of commodity increases with rise in its price and supply falls with decline in sales. So a supply schedule can further again be of two types: individual supply schedule and market supply schedule, like demand schedule. So this is the individual supply schedule. It represents different quantities of a commodity that a producer would like to produce at different price points. So graphical representation of all such points is called individual supply schedule. So if say price of apple in the market is 10, then farmer may like to produce one quantity. If price increase to 20, that farmer would like to produce more apples. If price of say apple is say apple, or say any mobile phone, apple is technically not possible, producer cannot increase suddenly, but in case of electronic goods and other goods, price can increase. So any commodity can be there. So if price of commodity say 30 rupees, then manufacturer would like to produce 3 items. So this is the tabular format and it is called individual supply curve. And if we draw this individual supply curve on graphical picture, so that gives a individual supply curve. This is schedule, this is curve. So this is price, y-axis, and x-axis quantity produced by the supplier. So at 10 rupees, supplier would like to produce one quantity. At 20 rupees, supplier would like to produce two quantities. At 30 rupees, supplier would like to produce three quantities. At 40 rupees, supplier would like to produce four quantities. So market supply curve is similar to market demand supply schedule or the supply curve. So it represents quantity produced by all producers in the market at a different price points. So assuming say there are two producers in the market, say price is 10 rupees, and Ravi and Sahil, they are only two producers, two manufacturers or farmers or manufacturers. So at 10 rupees, Sahil will produce one item, and Ravi will produce one item, and Sahil will produce two items. So at 10 rupees of price point, they both would like to produce three items. At 20 rupees, Ravi would produce two items, Sahil would produce three. So total items produced in the market would be maybe 5 rupees. At 30 rupees of price point, Ravi would like to produce three items, Sahil would like to produce four items. So total seven items will be produced in 40 rupees price point. Four will be produced by Ravi, five will be produced by Sahil. So entire market say will produce nine items. So this is the schedule of market supply in tabular format. And if we draw this table into this graphical picture, this gives us market supply curve. At 10 rupees 3 item, 20 rupees 5 item, 30 rupees 7 item, and 40 rupees 9 items. So this line will draw connecting this point is called supply schedule. These are the determinants of supply or supply function. So there could be multiple factors which affect supply of a commodity. Some of these major factors are price of commodity P. Higher the price, more will be the profit for supplier, and more supply will be done by suppliers or manufacturer. Objective of the firm. Firms have different objective like profit maximization, sales maximization, special welfare, etc. In case of a firm with profit maximization objective, as profit will increase, supply will also increase. Expectation about future prices. E. If prices are likely to rise in future, the producer would reduce supply and tend to stock the goods so that he can earn more profits by selling them at higher price in future, at higher price. Input price, production cost. I. As input cost will increase for supplier, profit will go down and supply or production will come down. State of technology. Better the technology, then cost of production will reduce and profit will increase, and accordingly supply will increase. Government policy, reduction in taxes and increase in subsidies will increase supply or manufacturing by the producers. Prices of related goods, supply of a commodity also depend on rise in price of related goods. For example, a farmer grows potatoes and bananas. If price of potato rise, the farmer would tend to grow more potatoes and less bananas. Number of sellers in the market, more number of suppliers are there in the market, then greater will be supply. Natural factors, supply also depend on natural factors like flood, drought, earthquake. For example, supply of agri good depend on these factors specifically. Next is assumptions of law of supply. So these are the following assumptions for law of supply. Prices of factors of production remain constant. Prices of related goods remain constant. Technique of production remain constant. There is no change in objective of the firm. Profit maximization, wealth maximization of shareholders, sales maximization could be one of the objectives. Social welfare could be the objective. Producers do not accept any change in future price of the product. Thus, keeping all other factors constant, supply of X commodity is directly proportional to the price of the commodity. So, supply of a commodity is a function of price of the commodity, and it is directly proportional. Demand is inversely proportional to the price, and supply is directly proportional to the price of the commodity. There are also certain exceptions to law of supply. For example, agriculture goods. Supply of agriculture goods largely depend on natural factors like rain, temperature, etc. So farmer cannot increase or decrease its supply to be adjusted to the market condition. This is an exception kind of. Rare objectives, supply of certain goods like rare coins, classical paintings, etc. cannot be increased or decreased with change in increase or decrease in price. Labor market, up to certain point of wage increase, supply of labor increase, but beyond certain point, further wage increase induce them to prefer more leisure hour over their work hours. So as you know, salaries increase, people tend to tend to work hard to earn more wages, but beyond a certain point of salaries or wages, they prefer to go for leisure. So that's all for today's session. Thank you very much for watching current session. So before I'm going to tell you what we are going to have in our next session, I would like to please subscribe to this channel and click on bell icon. So this is the topics which are going to cover in subsequent session number 2 and 3. We'll discuss about equilibrium of demand supply, importance of time element, price elasticity of demand, income elasticity of demand, price elasticity of supply, factors of production, and economic market structures. We'll try to cover up to this into session number 2, and then theory of rent, interest, and theory profit. So this we'll try to cover in session number 3. Thank you.